Hello. Good morning, Laurie. How are you? I'm giving you a reply to the video. I did watch it, and I listened to all your comments. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch my video and to give me your honest feedback. So the video was interesting. Why Ravi Zacharias rejects Calvinism and discussing Romans chapter 9. What a coincidence. The exact same passage I was discussing. It discusses the sovereignty of God, but also the response and responsibility. That's an interesting rhyme there. Response and responsibility of man that has to be held in tension. There was a little bit of new vocabulary for me here. The way he discusses sovereignty, it's different from the Jehovah's Witnesses. They were kind of saying that despite the sovereignty of God, His all powerfulness, we still have the option and the freedom to reject God's love. To not respond, to not be, I guess, responsible as humans should be, and I think the biggest hardening of our heart, not just with Pharaoh. Pharaoh was he was a god, and it was more about pride, but with humans today, it's I think it's more about the ransom sacrifice. What they're rejecting the love of God. They're rejecting the sacrifice, and it's crystal clear. So there has to be a hardening of heart to reject God, to reject that light over time. It could also be theologically with Christians. They block the light of truth, not just about the love of Christ, but about any truth of God. But essentially, I believe it comes down to the love of God is what they're rejecting. When I watched that video, I sort of got the impression that these people are believers in the divinity of Christ, and near the end, when they're talking about Israel, that I seem that they believe in the restoration of literal Israel, and these are two beliefs I find personally obnoxious and unscriptural. I find them ridiculous, and when they're talking about free will with those beliefs, they're I'm sort of closing the door on them already, because they're not looking at theology accurately. Did they even mention Genesis 3:15? That was like my prime basis with my discussion of free will and the founding of the world. They didn't really seem to touch on that. They're talking about Romans 9, but I don't think we're completely on the same track here. You did explain to me more about vessels of wrath and vessels of mercy. Thank you. You're shedding more light on that for me here. You quote Ezekiel 18, verse 23, about God pleading for the wicked to turn from his ways, because he doesn't desire any to be destroyed, as he says in Peter. And then Ezekiel 33:11, And then warning against unbelief, you mentioned about the Israelites, how they hardened themselves, they hardened their hearts. And they angered God. I mean, many times, think about the golden calf, where Moses slams down the Ten Commandments. And that gets to the point where God says, they're not going to enter. He didn't allow them into the promised land. They're not going to enter into my rest. That's what he promised, because he was so angry. Warning against unbelief. I'm going to read a couple scriptures to you. You know these very well. 1 John chapter 2:19. They went out from us, but they were not of our sort. For if they had been of our sort, they would have remained with us. But they went out, that it might be shown up that they are not all of our sort. I don't know if you're familiar with the Jehovah's Witnesses using this verse to show that some people who start going to the watchtower or try to come back to the watchtower and they don't succeed in staying, Jehovah's Witnesses will say they were never of our sort to begin with, right? Which is a big load of crap, right? But as a verse that I just read says, it's revealed, the ones that remain, is to be shown up that they are of our sort. So inside there's true colors, right? But the test of time, the wheat and the weeds growing together. Why? Because they might get plucked out together, right? And things become manifest, whether the true colors. 2 Timothy 2 verse 19. But God's firm foundation stands bearing this sealed. The Lord knows those who are his. Let everyone who names the name of the Lord depart from iniquity. I mean, God must have saw something good in the Apostle Paul. Saul. He was killing the Christians, right? So, I mean, the Lord knows who are his. He must have seen, something good in him. Contrast this with Satan, the devil. I mean, the Bible talks about, Ezekiel was commissioned to warn the wicked, or else blood would be on his head, right? But contrasting that with Satan, Jehovah's Witnesses teach that every intelligent person who was created perfect and turned away from God is not sinning because of weakness. They are rebelling against God, and there's no forgiveness, which means they can't be preached to. They can't be reached. There's no hope for them. Right? Those are my thoughts on the video. Thank you very much for for all your feedback. Hope you're doing well.